to the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. Okay. Notre Dame, big time underdogs at Ohio State. When this line first opened, and I don't know when that was, months ago, I believe it started around 10 and a half points. And really in the past 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, weeks, that line has ballooned to what I believe to be 17 and a half points in favor of the Buckeyes. Which to me, to be honest with you, again, I don't need to get into talking about the spread a whole awful lot. Obviously, my feelings are that spread is too high. I mean, again, I mentioned I'm not a betting guy. I don't normally even know what the spread to a game is, unless, like I say, it's been a major talking point, and by golly, has it been a major talking point. Here's what I'll say about this particular spread. I don't know that the people who are making these decisions on the spread are necessarily saying that this is a game that Ohio State runs away with, a game that, is going to be a blowout from start to finish. Because if you really think of, how football works and how Notre Dame has played on some of these big stages in the past, and that's a big part of this, by the way, is how Notre Dame has performed on the big stage, which oftentimes hasn't been particularly lovely. Okay, I'll acknowledge that. This game could be a 7-point game, 8-point game going into the fourth quarter type of a situation. And out of desperation, there's a turnover, a pick six, something at the end where Ohio State balloons the lead. The lead goes from 7 points to 14 points. And then Notre Dame is in desperation mode, turns it over again. Ohio State tacks on a field goal, a cheap touchdown, whatever the heck it is. And all of a sudden, a game that was very close for 3.5 quarters is not close in the final score. So I think it's important. I know Notre Dame is the people around Notre Dame are playing the card that, this is major disrespect. This is, how could it be 17 and a half points? I mean, Notre Dame is not a high school team going up against Ohio State. I had the argument that made the point this week to a couple of Ohio State fans that there are a very high number of Notre Dame players that are in their starting lineup that had Ohio State offers and chose to go to Notre Dame. There are some guys that, maybe didn't have an Ohio State offer, but had offers from Alabama, Oregon. I mean, Tyler Buckner is the quarterback, had big time offers from big time schools. And prior to COVID was essentially a 5-star recruit at quarterback, and, didn't get to play a whole awful lot in high school because of COVID, because of different reasons, and, kind of dropped off, and some of his notoriety dropped off. Still coming out of high school was a similarly rated recruit to Ohio State CJ Stroud. I mean, so yes, Tyler Buckner is going to have some difficulties on Saturday night. He's starting his first major college football game. Really, it's his team. The reins are his at this point. Those points hold. I understand that. Still, all of these things, Ohio State's offense, Notre Dame's inexperienced quarterback, inexperienced head coach, those things, in my opinion, would be a good talking point, a good reason for Ohio State to be 17.5 point favorites if Notre Dame was in disarray. If the shape of Notre Dame's football program wasn't as good as it is. And again, you can make all the jokes you want about how Notre Dame suffers in the big game. They haven't done it on the big stage. They haven't pulled out a win on the big stage. Even when they were close on the big stage, oftentimes it didn't go Notre Dame's way. I understand that. Notre Dame's done some of this to themselves. And that's to be, that's to be expected, I suppose. But this is a program that's in good shape, that's built to contend in games like this. And unfortunately for Notre Dame fans who are hurt about this, and I don't buy that Marcus Freeman didn't know that it's 17 and a half. I really don't. I think he had to act that way because he was asked that way, asked about it that way in a press conference. The this is going to be a good football game at some point. Again, like I say, I could very well see this game being the type of game where it's close for 2.5, 3.5 quarters. And, one team makes a couple plays down the stretch and then it doesn't look even as close as it did. I mean, that happens all the time in college football. Again, Notre Dame, if they want to avoid this narrative that they're outmatched in the big games, they just got to do it on the big stage. What better way to do it in week 1, in my opinion? So I don't know. Again, Notre Dame's got to get the monkey off their back. And I'd be interested, as we kind of talk here, Notre Dame fans, Ohio State fans in the comments, if this ends up being a close game and let's just say Notre Dame covers and maybe more than covers and loses this game by 6 points or 4 points or something like that, I'd be interested to hear how Notre Dame fans would feel about it and if Ohio State fans would give Notre Dame any credit for that.